It's a special edition Katsi International Women's Day celebration, and we have with us in the studio veteran broadcaster Julie Coker. You know, the media is referred to as the fourth estate of the realm. So who better to take a critical look at the development of women and the way society has been structured and say, well, let's see, what have we achieved? How much of inclusion has the society given to women? Good morning, ma. I like that you're wearing the official color code for International Women's Day, which is purple. You look radiant in it.
Thank you very much. You are radiant as well in red.
Well, what can I do when I'm seated close to the veteran broadcaster? I must do likewise.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, we're in business.
Okay.
We're always there,
Okay.
in the forefront. Broadcasters, anywhere in the world. There are so many women to be celebrated on a day like this. Not only international women like Christine Amanpour, or what's the other one? The American one, who is the richest woman in the world now. I forget her name right now, but I know you know who I'm talking about. But here in Nigeria, there have been a lot of women who have made their contributions, and no man has been able to put them down. Victoria Ezeokoli, she actually was the director of programs for many years, and she created Tales by Moonlight. There have been women in the forefront. We're not talking about the media now. We're just talking about women who have been there. Anike Agbaje Williams was the first face on television in Ibadan in those days. And later on, she became a director on the radio WNBS, and so on and so forth. Its list is, limitless. It goes on and on. And of course, we've had women who have performed very well as ministers, and also director generals, head of service. I don't think such women, nobody was able to put them down in their own time, because they had a lot of, first-class performance. They've always been there. And the first permanent secretary I actually met in those days was in Ibadan, Mrs. Odalu. We never heard of anything called permanent secretary. We said, secretaries are secretaries. How have they been permanent?
Why is this one called permanent secretary?
The other men are permanent people under Chief Adebo, who was a very strict person, a force to be reckoned with. He later became ambassador at the UN. But he was the one who actually discovered Mrs. Odalu. And now her son is vying to be governor of Edo State. So you see, all those years, people still remember the kind of service, that she was able to offer. And you can't forget such people in a hurry. When you think of Fela's song, African Woman No Go Gree, she won't even allow you to push her over. She can't even do that where our women are. And so there has been a lot of
so many women.
Equality.
Let's even start from women in the media, begin to celebrate them. Now, you have mentioned Christine Amanpour, you have Oprah Winfrey. Those are icons, global icons when you talk about women in media. But I believe it wasn't so easy for them to have gotten there and become global icons. Now, looking back from the time when women started fighting for better treatment, for equality, till now, how do you think it has been for women in the media?
The movement for women's emancipation in England, I think in the 19th century, when women were not even, didn't have the right to vote. It's the force of the women of Great Britain that came together and bulldozed their way into the parliament and said, well, we are now going to get our way. Equal rights for women on all fronts. Women have then, people like Florence Nightingale, she had already paid her dues, during the war years, and she was known as the lady with the lamp because she went to visit all the wounded soldiers, and she went every night to give them a word of comfort, and for those that have lost members of their family, she went to comfort them and to commiserate with them. So she was already, those women that were there at that time, you can't ever forget them. Statues have been erected in their memory. And I always think of the late Queen of England, Elizabeth II. There were just two of them by their parents. So it's not like in Nigeria where you'll be looking for a man, carrying a lamp to look for a man somewhere, hiding somewhere, and waiting for the oracle to tell you what to go. No, this has already been established that if the king has a daughter, when you say the king is dead, long live the queen. And she was there for 70-something years. And she was humble. She performed so creditably that people didn't even want her to die at 95. Of course, she had made a lot of impact in all the assignments that she was given. Right from the time she was told in Kenya that her father had died, she was ready to mourn, and she was prepared to ascend the throne. And she did it creditably. What I remember most about her was when she was celebrating her 70th year as the longest reigning queen, reigning monarch for that matter. She had a little, skit in which she performed, something for the children to remember her by. Paddington Bear was sitting there, and she came with her bag. And she said, you must always be prepared wherever you go with your own sandwich in your bag so that you'll never be disappointed. If people don't offer you a drink on time, when they see you bring out your sandwich, they'll remember that you need a cup of tea.
Oh.
And she said that you must not eat more than 2 slices. This is a message that I have for our women in Nigeria. Women are eager to feed their children properly, yes, but don't overdo it. I saw a woman once who had a big bowl of rice, and she wanted that child to finish that bowl of rice. That's the first stage to greed and avarice. When you get your child to demolish a whole bowl of rice or eba or whatever. But I learned that lesson from the queen, and when I went for a meeting with some other ladies after watching her, because we were at a show where, they gave us tickets to have tea with the queen. And I said, have we learned something from here? And they all agreed with me, Nigerian women. We were not only Nigerian, African and, English women, everybody was around celebrating with the queen. And when you overfeed your child, that child will never get satisfaction in other aspects of life. So that's how you have our men, looking for more women, looking for more money and grabbing all the money. They think they can do it and take it all from the women, but women still hold the purse. They know how to manage very well. So if you learn something from the queen, although if you don't feed your child well in Nigeria, they say, oh, it's because you are poor. But that's not the main thing.
So there's a limit to it, and you should know what that would mean for the child.
But know how to limit, the amount of food you are serving your family. Don't starve them, because then they will be looking out for,
something else,
other people's food and property. But make sure they are well fed, but not overfed.
Right.
Okay. So, you've been in the industry for decades as a veteran, and you've got wealth of experience, so to say. But I want to say, what we see today, you see the male folks, you see the female gender, the male gender doing their job, everybody, side to side, doing what they can do. Would you say that this is how it has been from the scratch? What are the challenges, especially that the female, gender actually experienced During your time, you know, in the industry, is it the same? Has something changed?
Well, once you have the talent, that's the main thing. If you haven't got the talent, then you haven't got it. Then you have no business being there. There's no amount of, you know, godfatherism or whatever that can keep anybody in broadcasting beyond a certain, you know, period of time, because it shows in what you do in your performance. If you are good, you are good. In our own days, you couldn't ad-lib. Everything was written out for you on the teleprompter. Even before the teleprompter came, somebody there, you know, carrying a little board to show you how to go, what steps to take, so that you don't, you know, say the wrong thing. Of course, there were white people in charge. Our technical partners were either American or Australian or British. So they had charted that course for us, and we tried very, very tenaciously to keep to their advice and the direction they were leading us. There were a lot of women in broadcasting then. There were no obstacles put in anybody's way. I was not, I didn't have like a formal audition. I just went to have tea or coffee because my uncle was the Attorney General, Justice Iwodaro, and he took me to the station and said, well, I have someone for you who has been Miss Western Nigeria, so see whether she can fit in here. And we sat down and we talked, and they wanted me to tell them about the best dish in Nigeria, and I told them it was the banga soup and starch. They've never heard of anyone eating starch. And they were so, you know, fascinated by the way I gave them told them about the recipe. Their wife was sitting there. I knew it wasn't going to be easy for her to make. But there you are, something they've never heard of. So that was enough. And later on they asked, how come you're not speaking with a Nigerian accent? I wasn't aware of that at the time. But to God be the glory, at the time, the schools I went to, they made sure that we had good elocution training, Holy Child College and St. Mary's Convent School. So I wasn't aware of the fact that I didn't have a Nigerian accent. In fact, I was embarrassed at how come I don't have a Nigerian accent. If I went anywhere and people spoke with me, they would think I was just putting on an act or being false or anything. And I've always, you know, been on that level. So if you have a good background and you're able to maintain that with all humility, you will make it. Because I think I spent over 35 years. The limit there was then 35, but I went beyond that. Some years ago, I was celebrating 65 years in broadcasting. Because sometimes when I go abroad, I'm asked to do one or two things for some Nigerian channels in England. And here in Nigeria, you know, they invite us to help in training some new talents. So you're always there. And whenever the station is having its anniversary, they invite all us veterans to deliver the news and see how far we can still go. I don't know how much time the makeup artist is going to spend on me, but I still try to put in my best as much as possible. Now, when people talk about men trying, you know, to get, you know, speak to people in areas that are not very palatable, something that you were not taught at home, that if you went for work, you should speak, you should be nice to people and be gentle and also kind when you get to a high position. But I've never had any man come to me, you know, with a request that is not palatable. It has never happened to me before, and I won't lie about it. And most of my colleagues, I check with them. Someone like Bimbo Oloyede, for instance, she was in the graphics department. She was an artist. And we had to actually, I don't know how, it wasn't possible for us to get her to swing to actually appearing on TV. She said, that's not why I came here. But we said, you know, during the death of the coup that took General Muritala Muhammad, they gave us some poetry to read on air, and everybody was bowled over. That's wow. So you have this hidden talent here somewhere. And we requested for her to come on TV. She said, no way. So we had to go and get it was until Mrs. Iruku, who was then the director on radio, was transferred to television, that spoke to her and said, well, I didn't start by being on TV. I was on radio. But later on, I find myself on TV. What are we going to do about that? So you come with me on one of the programs. And that's how a woman convinced her to come. If it was a man, they would say, oh, the man wants to do something with her. That's why he wants her to come on. No. Most of the people that are there, behave above board. People like Christopher Kolade, they're always kind and make sure that, you did your work well, and you did everything to make viewers at home happy. That's your main intention.
Okay.
To entertain, to educate, and to, make sure that people are quite happy with watching that channel.
So this year, the International Women's Day focuses on investing in women, accelerating progress. It also focuses on inspiring inclusion. Now, let me go back to the example you gave of what the Queen said, that you must have your own sandwich in your bag or in your purse, so that when you bring it out, people remember to give you a cup of tea. So
right.
Let's link that up with inclusion. What would inclusion mean today for the woman? What areas does she need to be included in? And for one who wants to be included, so you want to take a cup of tea, but you don't have, but you need to bring out your sandwich for people to know that you need a cup of tea. How can the woman show she wants to be included so people remember to give the support that will make her included?
Wow. Well, in my own case, I wasn't aware of any kind of discrimination against women. I was only 19 years old. I was a greenhorn when I went into broadcasting. I wasn't carrying a sandwich, but I was carrying my Bengal recipe.
That was your own sandwich.
That was my own sandwich. And politicians, in the area of politics, the word inclusion in Nigeria sounds foreign. Sounds as if people are not even aware of what's going on. There are only 4 female senators in the whole country.
But there's the
Do you know how
35% affirmative action.
That has not reached the ears of our politicians at all. Because right from the primaries, the area, the other day I was watching the Edo primaries. There was only one woman, and she had served in the House of Representatives. If I was a politician, a female politician, that's the candidate that I would back. Do you know, I saw one of the women leaders asking her to step down. Yes, because she had cut her teeth, even as a child of a politician, as the sister of a former governor of that state. So she had a lot, she came with a lot of experience. But the person that won the primaries had never actually lived in the state. I'm not saying this to pull him down, but how does that make sense to you, to me? So the question of inclusion is at that level that, you start from the process, you move on to the next stage, you have been there for a long time, and you have the record to show that you are a child or a woman of that society, you belong there. Isn't that why someone will become, why did they make Sunak the Prime Minister of England? It's because he went to school in England. He had served as a chancellor. So that qualifies him to be there. So I don't know whether he carried Indian soup along with him to prompt them. But he was chosen he was discovered by the former Prime Minister as a good candidate. And he had a lot of women in his cabinet. That's Boris Johnson, including a Nigerian who was born in Nigeria. But because she had a lot to offer. But here, I don't know. Really, I don't want to put them down. I don't want to put the politicians down. I think they're doing very well. In the medical field, people like Mrs. Awoli, they had been there for years, the first woman doctor in the whole country, followed by the mother of a female actress. I've forgotten her name, right? It escapes me right now. The mother was such an astute person, and she became the head of all the directors of medical services in Lagos. I'm trying to remember her name now. Anyway, her mother was a doctor, but we all knew, but she always came to the studio with her daughter and said, Julie, I'm handing her over to you when we're doing children's. Now she's a big actress. And Joke Smith, that's her name. So her mother, Dr. Smith, Bimbola Smith, would bring her daughter to the studio. In spite of the fact that she was, the head of the medical, the director of medical services at the time. So that is the role of a woman who had enough confidence in herself that she could leave the job for the women to take care of because she had done her own bit, And see how well she groomed the child to become a fantastic actress. She didn't say, you are going to follow as a doctor in my field, you have to do this, you have to do that. Women don't dictate to their children. They let them, make their own choice of the career in whatever area they're going to. I don't know if your own mother is a doctor or yours is a lawyer.
Okay, all
But
right.
this one, I was talking to someone who is a son, a female son, but she was a reader in the church. You see, that's how women perform. Even in some areas, you find that men become the endangered species. In my own time, I was the head of presentation, and I was saying, oh God, where are all the men? Yinka Craig, where is he? Patrick O'Kay, and so on and so forth. As head of, it wasn't a deliberate attempt for me to be picking men. But we found that because the women performed better.
So they were there.
They were there.
Okay.
But in politics, maybe we have to tighten up our belts and start, making sure that the men give us the recognition that we deserve. We can't have, from this moment, I would like to lead a brigade, a fight to say that there should be more than 4 women in the Senate. It's a disgrace. I think it is.
All right, so you've actually talked about the role of a woman, so let's talk about the role of media.
The role of
Media.
media.
Media, yes. Let's talk about the role of media. So it's International Women's Day, and we are saying invest in women, accelerate progress. You just talked about, the political setting where we don't even have enough, women in this setting. What is the role of media in projecting, in pushing that women ensures that they get themselves involved?
That's our
in those
responsibility
areas?
now. From today, we should sign a communique and say, we want more women.
Okay, we'll sign it. We want more women. Thank you very much. Veteran broadcaster Julie Coker making herself available for us today to celebrate International Women's Day. It's an honor to have you here with us on the show, and we thank you so
delighted.
much for
I'm
your wonderful
humbled
thoughts.
that even at my age, you still think that I have a little bit of contribution to make.
Oh,
Thank
your
you
contributions
very
are so much valuable.
We can't take that away from you.
At all, at all.
Early exchange, shaping policy, advancing development.